it started in here. Let's get it started.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, Birmingham. Hope you're doing well. In the next about 30 minutes, I present you the bullet points of the Choose Plus research program. And I just have to, here is it. Sorry, now I'm in the program. This is my first slide. I will start in the first part to present you the news in our research. That means I'm talking about the latest scientific articles. One of those was already presented by my precursor, but I also have something to say to that. In the second part, I will report about the studies underway we have all over the globe. And in the third part, I will talk about our future plans, some ideas we have for future research, and these are also very good matching to the talk you just heard before. So, coming to the studies, coming to the news. Try to get the next slide. Here it is. So we have, in the last 12 months, we have 3 new publications, scientific articles, they came out. One was published by myself with my group at the Medical University of Graz. The other one was published by Dr. Canas and his team in Florida by Numerous Children's Specialty Care in Jacksonville. And the third paper, you already heard about that, was published by the University of Parma in Italy by Dr. Del Rio and his team. But before I tell you about the key informations of these 3 recent publications, I want to clarify with you 2 questions first. What makes up a scientific article and what distinguishes a scientific article from a non-scientific article? Please don't misunderstand me. I do not mean that a scientific article is more important than a non-scientific article. For many in the business, in your business, the non-scientific communication is for sure more important. I just want to make you aware what's the difference between scientific article and non-scientific. I think we all agree that an article in a brochure, in a newsletter, in a newspaper, or on Facebook is basically non-scientific. So what is a scientific article? A scientific article has to be published in a scientific journal. You see here on the screen, under the fruits and vegetables here, some of the scientific journals. And the article has to be published in one of these journals or some others as well. But we can see here the JN is the Journal of Nutrition, or the green and blue cover is characteristic for the Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise, number 1 journal in sports medicine. Or here you have the JACC, the Journal of the American College of Cardiology, which is a number 1 journal in cardiovascular research. So getting an article published in one of these journals is at least one highlight in the career of a researcher. And for example, when I tell you from my perspective how this works, I summarize the data. Perhaps some of you may still remember the so-called COBRA study I published a few years ago before I became here Director of Clinical Research for this great company. I summarized the data, wrote the article together, and submitted it to the Journal of Nutrition and to the editors of this journal. And the editors, they distribute this article then to reviewers, at least 2 reviewers, normally 3 or sometimes even 4, somewhere in the world. Experts in the field, colleagues, but I don't know them. They are anonymous for me, but they perhaps know me, but they know at least from where is this article coming from. That's the university, that's the institution, that's this research team. And yeah, for some of you, you might perceive that's not really fair, but that's the way how it goes in research of an article. And if all reviewers, or 3 reviewers, agree that the article and the material in the article is good enough, I get my article published in this journal. If only one disagrees, I get the paper, we call it paper in our language among researchers, I get the paper rejected. What I can do is, if there are only minor critics, I could resubmit, or I have to take it back, and perhaps I can try it with another journal, but you can imagine such a process can last years, or in worst case, you can never publish it. So the percentage of articles getting accepted to be published in one of these journals is only about 20%. 80% of the articles and the so-called research is rejected. So what I want to tell you is that having a scientific article in one of these journals is not daily business. Sometimes we talk a lot about the Choose Plus research, and sometimes we even have I would say a sloppy approach. It's like doing like daily business, but it's a highlight to have a journal, to get an article published in such a journal. So, and this process that reviewers check the article and have to agree is a peer review process. You already heard the term before, peer review, but that's exactly peer reviewed. That means a peer reviewed article that independent colleagues, anonymous colleagues, I don't know who gets the article, they agree that the article and the material is good enough, and then it can be published in such a scientific article. So this is the key difference, I would say. So once you have your article published in one of these journals, you can track this article on a so-called scientific database. The most important scientific database in medical research is the PubMed, sorry for that, the PubMed database. I'm missing this here on the slide. Oh no, it's here on the bottom. You see on the left side, it's called PubMed, Medline. Other databases, Scopus, for example, or Embase. So these are scientific databases. PubMed, for example, is serviced, among others, by the National Institute of Health. So it's the common regarded, most important database for scientific articles. And so you can go on Google, put in PubMed, put in the name of the researcher, for example, Lamprecht Manfred, my name, and you find my articles trackable there on PubMed. So that's the real difference, because you won't find an article of a newspaper there, because it's not peer reviewed. So the main difference between a scientific article and a non-scientific article is the peer review process. And once it's accepted, the article is trackable on scientific databases like PubMed or Medline. And now, to our body of research of the Choose Plus company, this is really unique, because we have 35 of such articles published on this scientific database. And you can see here the latest 3 articles are in bold, recently published in the last 12 months. And this means 35 articles is another standalone argument from the scientific perspective for Choose Plus. No other product, and as my precursor already said, it's the most thoroughly investigated, scientifically researched product in this segment in the world, all over the world. And I will give you another evidence for that just in a few seconds. So, why I'm telling you this? It's just another argument for you if you're talking to doctors, researchers, nutritionists, dietitians, and they say, do you have any research? You can tell them 35 scientific articles are trackable on PubMed, and they will raise their eyebrow. You can be sure. This is impressive. So, Coming back to these three recent publications, the first one is a chapter in a scientific book. I edited and it was released last year by CSC Press and Taylor and Francis, which is a review on the influence of mixed fruit and vegetable concentrates on redox homeostasis and immune system of exercising people. So, a review is a summary of several scientific articles, bringing these articles together to one result, to one conclusion, or perhaps two, yeah? To summarize several articles. And that means the Choose Plus research program already revealed that much articles on this topic that it was possible to summarize that. We already have 6 articles specifically on Choose Plus influence on oxidative stress, if you want to say so. We call it more scientifically redox homeostasis. And reduction of oxidative stress, stabilization of immune system in sporty people. And so now I'm coming back what I just told you, what makes Choose Plus unique for his scientific appearance on databases. It was only Choose Plus, because we did a search for all publications, for all scientific articles with Choose fruit and vegetable concentrates on this topic. And we only find one product investigated and published, and this was Choose Plus. So another unique position for the research on this product and for the product, of course. So only Choose Plus papers were traceable on PubMed. No other product was investigated in this regard. So, and the key conclusions were we have two of them. Choose Plus can support the immune system of athletes. So several studies have demonstrated that Choose Plus supports the immune system of exercising people and also of stressed people. And we can really announce for sure that Choose Plus supports the redox balance of athletes and exercising people. So these are the key findings of this first publication. The second article, which was just recently published in December 2015, is from Dr. Canas and his co-workers in Florida. This is you see here, a so-called post hoc analysis. That means it's a second paper on a study where the first paper was already published in 2012. It was on the overweight and obese boys. Perhaps some of you remember this article already. And in this study, they published 3-4 years now ago that the overweight boys, the boys that were in the supplemented Choose Plus group lost more abdominal fat mass compared to the placebo group. And this was a fact, a clear clinical outcome. But what we didn't know, and that's why they took this analysis or made this analysis afterwards, we had not really a mechanistic idea why they lost more abdominal fat than the placebo group. And Dr. Canas and his group, they found out that the fatty acid binding proteins are reacting and affected by Choose Plus. Fatty acid binding proteins are molecules that are responsible to build up fat, specifically to build up abdominal fat. They are also affecting chronic inflammation, which is a typical situation we can find in obese and overweight subjects. They have a higher level of inflammation, of so-called chronic inflammation. And what they saw was that the activity of this fatty-building protein, so-called fatty acid binding protein, was reduced with Choose Plus. So this was very exciting finding, so that they could create a second article on that, about the mechanisms behind why the obese and overweight boys lost more abdominal fat in the intervention group, in the active group, in the group with Juice Plus, compared to the placebo group. And this is just recently, less than 2 months ago, published in the Journal of Nutritional Science. So the third paper, this was already mentioned by Nigel before. It's in Pharma Nutrition. And this is a very, very interesting story behind, because basically it's the first publication on a study we have underway. I will present you a little bit later in Cambridge, here in England. And the researcher there wanted to characterize a little bit the fruit and vegetable berry concentrate in regard of phenolics, because one of these researchers in that group, it's Professor Daniele Del Rio, is one of the most renowned researchers in phytonutrient research. And then they did this analysis, and they found that here, point 1, Juice Plus contains phenolic compounds. Now, I would say, or you would say, that's no sensation, we know that already. But just a second, from a scientific perspective, who saw it? Did one of you ever see phenolics? Nobody made it visual up to now. I mean, we all assume, of course, if it's from fruit, vegetables, and berries, phenolic compounds must be in there. But this is the first publication who really measured with mass spectrometric analysis the phenolic compounds in Juice Plus, and they are really there. So this is something for me, I said, okay, good, we know that, fine, happy, but it's just confirming what we already assumed. The second thing they found was, and this is now really becoming more and more exciting, I think also for you, that Juice Plus contains a large variety of phenolic compounds. Phenolic compounds are a subgroup of the large group of phytonutrients. Some people may call it phytochemicals, rather like it from the nutrition perspective to say phytonutrients. So one big subgroup are these phenolic compounds. Perhaps the best known of them are quercetin or catechins in tea or resveratrol. They are all counted to phenolic compounds. So what they did was to find out how many different phenolics are in there, and they detected 119 different phenolic compounds. Daniele Del Rio said to me, they discovered compounds he never knew that they even exist. They had names, chemical names, over 4 lines. Yeah? So very, very complicated. And this is a clear evidence and a confirmation that such compounds and such a number of compounds, 190 just phenolics, so that we can assume there are hundreds or perhaps thousands of phytonutrients in there. This is really from natural origin, from whole food, fruit, vegetable, and berries, because you cannot create such a product in the lab to mix together phytonutrients or some vitamins or whatever. So it's absolutely useless and won't lead to any success to try to copy Juice Plus in the lab, because it's natural based and only the nature can build up such a concentrate. And the third point they found were that, and this was already explained by Nigel before, so I can cut this a little bit down to a shorter explanation. The daily dose, 6 capsules of Juice Plus, 2 berries, 2 veggie, and 2 fruit capsules, they provide about 600 milligrams of phenolic compounds. So this is almost the daily intake of phenolics in countries in the north, UK, Germany, Scandinavia. There are about 800. It's a little bit less than in the Mediterranean countries because of the diet, which is a little bit richer in phytonutrients and phenolics. So this high amount of 600 milligram in daily dose is really of physiological relevance and has a health impact. The phytonutrient research is still in the baby boots, but we more and more find out that these phenolics and phytonutrients are affecting cell signaling, are affecting information between cells. They even affect the microbiome before they get absorbed, so in the gut. So they affect the brain-gut axis, for example. So there are many, many things. Phytonutrients are involved, and no doubt and no discussion about cardiovascular issues and things like that. That is already known for years now. But yeah, and now is something I want to show you. I want to show you a brief video to fresh up a little bit my science talk. It's just a 1.5 minutes. But what is very, very important to get such results from science is the high quality of the product. Perhaps I'm not that dramatic as Nigel was before me to say it's a gift from God, but I think it's the best human can make. The farmers can produce the farm fresh food. They collaborate with us. They must be enthusiastic, they must be genuine, and they must be excited about this whole project. And we're really lucky to be able to work with such persons. And I just show you now a short video on a cranberry farmer in Wisconsin, just to give you a brief idea of their work. Let's see.
Yeah, well, I've been farming my whole life, so it's kind of second nature to me. We're not a big commercial operation. We're a family farm-sized operation, so everything we touch has an impact on the end of it. My manager, Paul, and I built a 103-acre marsh. We're delighted to be in partnership with Juice Plus and producing a premium product for their use. Well, we live here, and we eat the products that we grow, so we're very cognizant of the fact that they have to be environmentally friendly. There's no other way around it. To send something out of here that you yourself or your family wouldn't eat doesn't cut it. The variety that Juice Plus purchases from us is the Bandelier variety, which is a deeper red, higher in anthocyanin, and that requires us to wait a little longer on the marsh. We don't start harvesting until we've reached the numbers that they require, so that we produce the fruit, particularly for them. That's a big deal to us.
Yeah, thank you. This was an example from a cranberry farmer, and we have so many farmers and partners out there, and you see how impressive they take care of the product and to make sure that farm fresh products are coming, farm fresh fruit, vegetables and berries are getting into the product. So now I'm coming to the second part of my presentation. I want to report about the studies underway all over the globe. We have currently two studies here in the UK. One is just around the corner at the University of Birmingham. Another one is running in Cambridge. Then Newcastle, this is in Australia, north of Sydney. We have a study running there. One study is a collaboration between researchers in Padua, Italy, and the University of Colorado. And we have one more study which is conducted at the University of Memphis, just around the corner of the head office in Tennessee. Let's start with the University of Birmingham. Here, this is a dental study. We already have a publication out there on periodontitis. This is a study on wisdom tooth extraction. Wisdom tooth extraction is one of the most conducted surgeries, operations in the Western world. And the research question in this project was whether Juice Plus could improve post-operative quality of life after wisdom tooth extraction. So they measured, for example, pain via a pain scale, or they measured the trismus. Trismus is a cramping of the muscles around the mouth, and after such a surgery, you have pain to open your mouth. And there's also the forthcome, how this develops. The more you can open the mouth without pain, the better it goes. So this is a quite big study, as you can see here. It's a randomized clinical trial, so it's the gold standard of our research. It's a control group, we have a placebo group. They gave them the two plants, fruit and vegetable here, for 11 weeks before surgery, 183 patients, women and men. And then they had surgery. They measured again, this was the baseline measurement. And then they measured the second day after surgery and the 7th day after surgery, how it looks like with pain and trismus. And the results are quite striking. I just met the principal investigator this morning, that trismus and pain are significantly better in the Juice Plus group, and they need less medication, less analgesic consumption compared to placebo in the week after surgery. So this is really also a practical benefit if you need less medication and take a natural-based product like Juice Plus. So the first abstract on this, already reporting that pain was reduced and trismus was improved, was already presented last year at the International Association of Dental Research in Boston, a big congress. But for the paper, we have to wait a little bit because we want to do also some, they want to also do some subgroup analysis. They are working on the statistics currently, and they are going to submit a full scientific article as presented before. Now we all know what this means this year, and we hope that we will have a publication trackable on PubMed towards the end of the year. But you never can predict how long this process takes. It could last 6 months, it also could take 2 years. But the plan is that end of the year we will have a scientific article on these striking results. So success in dental research of Juice Plus is already clear here, although the article is not published. We have a second study conducted in the UK at the University of Cambridge. This is a cardiovascular study. It's the most comprehensive approach up to date we had on this topic. We already had cardiovascular research in papers, articles published on that. For example, the Plotnik paper article already 13 years ago now in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology. But in this study, they measure from many sides. They took a lot of markers, and they measure, for example, intima media thickness in the large vessels at the throat. They measure chronic inflammatory markers. They measure oxidative stress markers. They measure for simple markers like blood pressure, but they also measure very, very specific markers like Nigel mentioned before, transcription factors and signal proteins, for example, like NRF2. So the design is also, John Blair always likes to say gold standard, so it's the best research can do from the design perspective. It's a randomized clinical trial, it's placebo-controlled, it's double-blinded, And the group is quite big with 80 subjects. They get Juice Plus for 12 weeks. This is the 3 plant they use, so they include the berries here as well. And male and female subjects, and they take only people that are overweight or obese with a BMI larger than 25. The results are coming out soon. I hope they will reveal the results to me in April when we meet at the Experimental Biology Congress in San Diego, which is one of the biggest scientific congresses in the field of biomedical research. And then we also hope that another scientific paper could be published towards the end of the year. That means end of 2016, 2017, that really could become strong years in regard of scientific articles that are published. So the next study that is underway is, I think now Australia, yes, is the University of Newcastle in Australia. This study questions whether Juice Plus can reduce chronic low-grade inflammation in obese subjects older than 50. So we have again the topic of chronic inflammation here, but it's a quite new approach because it's the first nutrigenomic approach, a new field of research we opened because in this approach, nutrigenomic, they measure genes, how genes react on the intake of Juice Plus. For example, do genes responsible for oxidative stress, are these genes regulated or influenced by some way by Juice Plus? Is this a reason for the decline of inflammation? Because the genes responsible for inflammation are regulated down. That's the hypothesis, one of these hypotheses behind. So they really go deep into our body, deep into the cell, into the nucleus, and they investigate whether genes are switched on, off, or regulated in some way by Juice Plus. Of course, the design is the best we can have. It's a placebo-controlled, randomized, double-blinded. The intervention is 8 weeks, so they get the 3 plants, fruit, berry, and vegetables for 8 weeks. They have 64 subjects, and the group they investigate is obese. You see a BMI larger than 30, which is defined being obese. So also here, and this is the 3rd publication, that could come up within the next year. I hope so. The results I would also await in April this year, and if everything is running well, we could count with a scientific paper towards the end of this year. So I have 2 more studies for you are going on. One is conducted, it's a collaboration between the University of Padua in Italy and Colorado, Anschutz Medical Campus. This is in some way different to what you are familiar with. This is not a clinical trial. It's a mixture of an epidemiological study, and basically we call such an analysis a meta-analysis. It's a meta-analysis that has 2 key questions or hypotheses. First, they investigate the impact of Juice Plus in terms of disease prevention. So what they do is they collect all 35 articles, not sure whether they can take the last, 34, 33 articles we have with Juice Plus published already. They collect these articles all together and try to summarize and extract 1 results from these articles in regard of disease, Juice Plus, and disease prevention. And the second question is, they want to know whether the whole body of our research, of this more of 30 scientific articles, reveal an influence of Juice Plus on healthcare costs reduction. That would mean, for example, if they find a positive outcome, that Juice Plus could save a lot of money to take care for medicine, medication, or many other investment. So this is really it's also an economic question here to investigate. So this is something different to the others. It's new, but I think not of minor interest. And we also are excited that we can get results very soon, also in the next 2 or 3 months. And this would be the next scientific paper, end of this year or beginning 2017. So that means, if you're really lucky, we will have perhaps 4 new scientific articles ahead, 1 year ahead from now. So this is, as I told you, a meta-analysis. And then there is one more study I'd like to show you. This is a study recently contracted. It's from the University of Memphis in Tennessee. And here we have the research question whether Juice Plus has an impact on the microbiome. So this is another new field of research we opened up recently. It's the research on the microbiome, because as I told you before, we know now that phytonutrients and phenolic compounds influence our gut and the microorganism in our gut. By the way, we have more cells in our gut than the rest of our body. Yeah? So 90% of all of our cells are in the gut. What I can see from you is just in maximum 10% of cells. So this is one of the big questions, the impact of the microbiome. Then they want to know whether Juice Plus can improve intestinal permeability. This fits to possible changes in the microbiome, that the gut wall integrity, so that the normal physiological absorption processes are perhaps, we think that they are influenced beneficially by Juice Plus. So that means improve intestinal permeability. And the third question is whether there is a correlation between the gut health modulation via Juice Plus and low-grade inflammation and oxidative stress. So this is rather a traditional arm we also had in the past. They investigate low-grade inflammation and oxidative stress. And this study has another new track that is open. Not only the research into microbiome, into this study, we also investigate not solely the powder concentrate from the capsules, they also investigate the complete. And this is something, this is new. They want to also measure whether complete has an influence on these markers or outcomes on microbiome, intestinal permeability, and low-grade inflammation and oxidative stress. So they use the 3 plants, as most of the studies currently do. And you see they take 80 stressed nurses, so these are stressed women they collect, and they are at least overweight with a BMI of 25. A cohort who is susceptible for oxidative stress, who is susceptible for imbalances in gut wall integrity, who is susceptible for changes in the microbiome into the direction of a pathological, into a pathological direction. These results we have to wait a little bit. I wouldn't say it would last almost a year until we will have results, earliest end of this year, and we cannot expect a scientific article on this study before 2017. So these were the studies underway, and now finally just a few minutes on the future research. We have plans, and we are very, very close to contract a study soon on aging. So we I'm pretty convinced that we will be able to start this year with an interesting project on aging. This fits, as I said in the beginning, to Nigel's presentation. We will also technically, from the measurement methods, implement a metabolomic approach. That means a huge range of biomarkers is measured. It's a new technique. Metabolomics is a very modern technique, so we try to stay state-of-the-art, most modern technique, most modern approaches in Juice Plus research. And for next year, we think about brain health. It's completely open in which direction. It could be prevention of mild cognitive impairment or Alzheimer's. It could be into direction of memory, cognition. So this is uncertain, but we will think about and try to find the best collaborators also to accomplish this endeavor. And perhaps a little bit further ahead, we also think about eye health, because we have high quality carotenoids in the product, and Nigel presented before that carotenoids are so important, and for eye health they are really something that could prevent, for example, age-related macular decline. Of course, we keep our classical fields as sidearms of these studies. For example, CVD is cardiovascular disease prevention, oxidative stress reduction, chronic inflammation. We won't leave this track because we know there is the specific strength of Juice Plus and very good evidence up to now. And we also plan that the current study in Memphis is not the sole study having the complete investigated. So we also want to involve Juice Plus Complete a little bit more into future research. So I can finalize that I think we can all be in good mood regard of our research program. We are ahead of the others, and from time to time I hope that I can be with you to report again about the forthcoming. I thank you very much for your attention. Enjoy the conference. Stay healthy. Bye-bye.